Welcome to the Best Little Town Podcast, your go-to source for everything happening in the town of Bedford's local government. Whether it's new initiatives or important decisions shaping our town's future, you'll hear it right here. This podcast is dedicated to keeping our residents informed and engaged.
Good Wednesday morning, October 15th, 2025, and welcome to the Best Little Town Podcast, brought to you by the town of Bedford in conjunction with our partners at Media Squatch here in the Media Squatch studios. My name is Bart Warner. I have the privilege of serving as the town manager of Bedford, and we present this the day after every council meeting to provide a recap of what takes place when council gets together. Maybe a little bit further explanation about some of the things that are discussed from the previous night. And on that note, just want to mention that currently, although that's one of the topics of discussion, council meets on the second and fourth Tuesdays of every month at 7 p.m. in the council chambers, which are located upstairs in the municipal building located at 215 East Main Street. If you're able to join us in person, we'd love to have you there. And I know the council members in particular appreciate that. In fact, they comment on that every time, and we'll speak to that in a few minutes as well. If you can't join us, the meetings are live streamed. You can catch that on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, search for Town of Bedford, Virginia. Also, they're recorded and posted there in perpetuity. So there's another option for keeping track of what town council talks about and the formal business that takes place related to the town. Also, we post the minutes of every meeting after they are formally approved on our website at www.bedfordva.gov. If you click on the government tab, and I believe it's online documents there, you can find minutes for not only town council, but planning commission, REDA, and several other appointed boards and bodies that serve our community. Also, I would like to just kind of take this opportunity to remind folks that all of the business of the town that takes place officially happens at the council meeting. So, if you hear something or have questions about anything, the single best source is the council meeting itself. There are legal reasons why no actions can typically be taken outside of those meetings, and essentially everything we do is covered through the authority of town council. So, if you see something online or have a question about anything, by all means, feel free to contact us anytime. The main number at Town Hall is 540-587-6001. We're there Mondays through Fridays from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Feel free to reach out to me directly anytime by email at bwarner@bedfordva.gov. And again, please feel free to participate in the council meetings and to watch them, because that is where the official items and official actions do take place. As I let the train pass by, we will jump right into the recap of last night's council meeting. Of course, we met last night at 7 o'clock p.m. on Tuesday, October 14th, beginning with the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting in September. Next was my report, and I had a few things to pass along of note to citizens. First regards Halloween trick-or-treating. There's always a lot of questions and confusion about the town's official position on trick-or-treating, and that official position is as follows. Some communities in Virginia choose the date, time, and other restrictions associated with Halloween trick-or-treating. However, the town of Bedford does not. We encourage those who choose to participate in trick-or-treating to plan ahead and exercise caution. Citizens are encouraged to use flashlights when walking on neighborhood streets and to supervise children as they go from house to house. The town also encourages those driving around the community during the evening hours on October 31st to exercise extra caution in light of potential weather-related conditions, as well as the likely presence of trick-or-treaters on or near neighborhood streets. The next item I mentioned last night related to a service issue and a question of who provides what service. And just want to remind folks that Bedford County provides 25 different drop-off and or full-service convenience centers for solid waste disposal throughout the county. These are open daily from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., with the exception of 6 specific holiday dates when they are closed. They are well maintained, well staffed, and well operated. And probably something that people may not be aware of is the fact that the county provides this service to all citizens of Bedford County, and this service is actually tax funded, which means, again, we still get questions about reversion, even though it took place 12 years ago, that all town residents are paying for this service. When you ask where your tax dollars go, this is one of those examples. So we get a lot of questions about some of the changes in our operations for solid waste, but in the meantime, there are service options available through Bedford County, and we are all paying for those whether we use them or not. And so we just wanted to make folks aware of particularly the convenience centers. There's one about a mile outside of town southward on Falling Creek Road. If there are any concerns about hauling your trash to a facility, the county provides 25 of them throughout the area. The next administrative note is that the Flora Apartments, the apartment portion of the Bedford Middle School, also formerly the Bedford High School, redevelopment is nearly complete. Waukesha Development is going to be hosting a community open house for the apartment use, which is within the larger main brick building. That community open house is scheduled for Wednesday, October 22nd from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock p.m. If you're interested in seeing the progress of that project and seeing what's been done and the transformation of that by Waukesha, the public is encouraged and invited to attend. Lastly, I reported that Lowe's has a Hometown Heroes program in which they fund repairs to public facilities such as Liberty Lake Park. And in fact, they have contributed some resources to the town to make repairs to the building adjacent to the main pavilion in our park. That work is going to commence on Wednesday, October 29th. Some representatives from Lowe's will be out working and making some much needed improvements to the appearance of that building. And once that is complete, we will have a commemoration of that work at a later date. The next item of business for the council agenda was appearances before council. Last night we had 5 individuals who signed up to speak. The first was Ethan Strickler, who identified himself as the pastor of Thaxton Baptist Church. He indicated that he was there to share some wisdom and prayer on behalf of council. He spoke from the book of Proverbs, and the nature of the wisdom he was sharing was to the direction in the scriptures to be slow to anger, be patient with others, and be generous to the needy. He then prayed for counsel. The next speaker was Jennifer Cohn. She spoke to the agenda item regarding a proposed change to the town council meeting time. She expressed her opposition to the idea of changing the meeting to once a month. Noted that where she lived previously, that the political situation was maybe a little less hospitable than what we have here. And she noted that we don't want to lose the civic discussion and discourse that we have at our meetings. Her view is that being together more frequently diffuses the opportunities for sometimes those less than pleasant situations to exist, and she did not want to cut back on that opportunity and wanted to encourage continued face-to-face meetings as much as possible. Our next speaker was Bill Mosley, who is a Centertown business and building owner. He also noted that he did not want to cut back the opportunities to talk about issues, particularly ongoing initiatives such as the Downtown Strategic Plan. In his view, that sends a poor message. He noted that it is better to be face-to-face more than once a month, and also noted that part of the downtown strategy is engagement with a consultant from outside of the area, and given the needs to travel for that consultant, it's probably best to engage people in discussions that are face-to-face rather than by remote means. Next speaker was Dee Finch, who advised that she is part of a group forming a community pet coalition, and they are working with Bedford County to host a low-cost pet clinic in space in the new county shelter, which is being developed. That's being overseen by Assistant County Administrator D.W. Lawhorn. She noted that on November 8th, her group is going to be sponsoring a rabies clinic in Montvale. And she also noted that as her group gets up and running, they are seeking volunteers to serve on a board of directors as they attempt to incorporate as a nonprofit organization. So would encourage people to look into Ms. Finch's invitation to explore that. The next speaker was Leslie Mahaffey, who expressed her opposition to changing meetings from twice a month to once a month. She noted that some meetings recently in particular have been rather lengthy, and moving to once a month would probably exacerbate that issue. She also noted her experience with some comments on social media and that those tend to fester until such time as they are addressed at council meetings a lot of times, and meeting more often would cut down on some of that concern and dissension. The exact nature of her comment was that small things can grow big if they're not addressed in a timely fashion. She also expressed her preference to see the community's leaders face-to-face on a regular basis. Moving on, the next item on the agenda was council comments. Our first participant in that last night was Vice Mayor Darrell Updike, who stated his appreciation of all those who were in attendance physically at the meeting, noted that council is receptive to the comments and they do hear what citizens tell them. Next was Councilman Dwight Evans, who thanked the pastor for his prayers and encouragement, also thanked people for showing up personally for the meeting. He also noted that several people are taking advantage of our online opportunities to watch the meetings and get information, which he also appreciates. In particular, Dwight noted some comments about our parks and recreation facilities and invited people who are interested and able to assist us with some of our maintenance and cleanup efforts. And if anybody is interested in doing that, Dwight encouraged them to email him. And just in case you want to follow up, his email address is devans@bedfordva.gov. Next was Councilman Dave Foster, who expressed his appreciation for those in attendance and for their comments. He noted that he lives on Longwood, which he's preparing for Halloween, and he noted that in his view, Halloween is a really special and unique event here within Bedford, but also expressed his concerns about the safety of children in particular and those who accompany them, and traffic along Longwood, which typically is one of our busiest areas associated with trick-or-treating, even though that is not an official activity of the town. I will note that in conjunction with these discussions about Halloween, we also receive inquiries about the possibility of closing streets. Again, going back to the original point, which is that the town does not recognize Halloween as a particular holiday or as a sponsored event. There's also the matter of other safety concerns about traffic flow. Longwood Avenue is a pretty broad street, and there are a lot of residences. It also is one of the numbered routes through town and serves as a main point of access to Bedford Memorial Hospital. So anytime we have to close streets down, we have to identify alternate routes so we can maintain access to specific sites, particularly our public safety installations. So one of the reasons we try to avoid closing streets such as Longwood is we don't want to negatively impact sites such as Bedford Memorial Hospital on a regular basis when emergencies may occur. Next to speak was Councilman Stacey Haley, who also thanked everyone who was in attendance. Stacey provided further information about the Lowe's Hometown Heroes program, noted that our local Lowe's store is donating $2,500 to $3,000. This will go to fix some external features of the building near the main pavilion in Liberty Lake Park. Next, Councilman Todd Foreman expressed his thanks to those in attendance and the people who shared comments. He also followed up on Councilman Foster's comments and requested everybody be careful and mindful on Halloween night. He also expressed his excitement about the events and activity taking place at the former Bedford Middle School / Bedford High School site and the Flora Apartments development. Next was Councilman Jay Ippolito, who expressed his thanks to the pastor who spoke. Jay noted that he had participated in an October 4th event at the Bauer Center and also noted participation of Leslie Mahaffey, representatives of both Updike and Tharp funeral homes, as well as Heather Alto and Nicole Johnson. It was a very special event geared towards prevention of suicide among veterans. And he also noted that Delegate Tim Griffin also showed up and said that this was a very meaningful event for him personally and encouraged people to be mindful of that topic. He also thanked several people in attendance for being present and again, thanked the Reverend for his comments. Finally, Mayor C.G. Stanley wrapped up council comments by expressing his thanks to everyone who was in attendance and noting his activity over the past couple of weeks. On September 25th, he attended the Chamber of Commerce's annual gala and awards ceremony. On October 1st, he toured the former Winona, known to some people as Wheelabrator, site where the town EDA is developing a workforce training center geared toward metalworking. That project is taking shape, and on that particular visit, there were representatives of several potential partners who can move that project along and bring it to fruition. He also noted that he participated on October 7th in a business roundtable sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce. County Administrator Robert Hiss provided a very good presentation regarding county services and activities being undertaken by our neighbors up the street there. He also spoke to a concern that he had received about council members staying on top of their email accounts, noting that's an excellent way for the citizens in particular to communicate with them, and asked that they be mindful of that and stay on top of that. He also noted that I provide a weekly report to council of the activities of staff and requested that council pay attention to that as well. I appreciated CG's comments. He noted that we do try to keep everybody informed on council at the same level and at the same time through the means of that report. So communication is very important, and also the maintenance of objective sources of information is likewise just as important. Next were revisions to the agenda. We did have one, and that was a request from the local American Legion Post for a street closure for a parade, which we did add to the consent agenda, and we will pick up on that momentarily as we work through the agenda. Next, we had a series of public hearings. The first was a hearing related to grant rollovers that relate to our fiscal year 2026 adopted budget. We have several grants that we've received over the years. That work doesn't always get performed within the 12-month box or the specific year when it's first granted. So we typically carry that forward, but that requires a public hearing given the amount of money that's involved. In this particular case, the grants we're talking about total over $9 million. Public hearing was opened. There were no speakers, and that public hearing was subsequently closed. The next public hearing was similar to the first in that it relates to general fund capital projects, again, that are begun in one fiscal year, which runs from July 1st to June 30th, but obviously in real time, we don't always get all that work wrapped up, and we continue to maintain the worthwhile efforts to provide the services that citizens expect. This particular case, there's about $1.2 million worth of work that needs to be continued into fiscal year 2026, and that also required a public hearing. That hearing was opened. There were no speakers, and it was subsequently closed. The next public hearing related to an item of new business was on last night's agenda, related to a possible change in meeting date. That requires an amendment of Section 2-27 of the Code of the Town of Bedford. The proposal that has been advertised was to change the regular meeting of Town Council to the third Tuesday of each month at the hour of 6 o'clock p.m. Bill Mosley, who had spoken previously about the matter briefly during appearances before council, noted a question about the agenda format itself and that it wasn't exactly clear about the nature of the town code amendment. And he requested that we provide more detail in future cases when we have items such as this. There were no other speakers, but there was an email submitted from T.L. Witt, she had requested that email be included in the official record, and at the direction of town council, that was passed on to the town clerk for inclusion. There being no other speakers, we then moved into the consent agenda portion of our meeting last night. The first was a request to close streets for the Bedford Christmas Parade and tree lighting event, sponsored by the Central Virginia Business Coalition on Saturday, December 6th. The annual Christmas Parade is scheduled to take place from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on what I would consider to be our traditional parade route. Again, that's the area from Peak Street to College Street, North Bridge Street to Main Street, East Main Street to South Street to Washington Street, and then back further to the original staging area in Westgate Shopping Center. There will also be a street closure earlier in the morning from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. related to that staging area in Westgate Shopping Center that also extends around the county rec fields on Bedford Avenue Extension and up onto College Street. Slight difference related to the tree lighting event is while the parade will take place from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., the tree lighting event is actually being expanded from 2 o'clock p.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. And Heather Alto of Central Virginia Business Coalition was there to speak to that. The intent of that organization is to make this a bigger event stretching throughout the day. Of course, December 6th, that first weekend in December is typically a very active holiday commemoration here in the community. In addition to these events, the parade and the associated closure with the tree lighting, there's also the YMCA's 5K run that takes place earlier in the morning. But Ms. Alto indicated that they're requesting an extended closure of the streets downtown that roughly mirrors the footprint of the Centertown Festival, in which vendors will be able to set up within the streets and interact hopefully with our downtown businesses to promote more activity and attract more people to our downtown area. On a motion by Councilman Jay Ippolito and seconded by Councilman Stacey Haley, the request for street closures for both of these events was unanimously approved. Again, the annual Christmas parade will take place December 6th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., but that will be immediately followed by a downtown event that will be somewhat new but related to our tree lighting from 2 o'clock p.m. to 6 p.m. Next item on the consent agenda was an appointment of a member to our Redevelopment and Housing Authority. Ms. Ann Duncan has expressed an interest in being reappointed to that body. The vacancy had been advertised in a local paper. No other citizens had volunteered to serve. Last night, council was requested to reappoint Ms. Duncan to serve on the Redevelopment and Housing Authority with a term to expire October 13th, 2029. On a motion by Councilman Stacey Haley, seconded by Todd Foreman, that appointment was unanimously approved. We did note last night that board in particular still has a couple of vacant positions, so if there's anyone who's interested in serving the community in that capacity, one of the most visible activities of that group has been the recent Hilltop revitalization that's been accomplished through a community development block grant. And in addition to concerns about the quality of housing, there's also the redevelopment aspect of that, which is a constant look to maintain, preserve what's good about the community, and carry that forward. So again, we think there are 2 more vacancies on that board. So if anybody's interested, please reach out and let us know. We'd be happy to talk to you about that. The next item was the item that was added to the agenda. This is a request to close streets for a semi-quincentennial anniversary kickoff parade to be sponsored by the American Legion Board Kennedy Post 54. They are proposing to have a kickoff parade on May 16th, 2026 from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., again along the traditional parade route. This is in conjunction with the fact that our nation will be celebrating its 250th birthday next year, which is the semi-quincentennial. It's not an easy term to say, but we probably ought to get used to it. And to kind of kick off those events locally, our local American Legion Post is going to sponsor this parade. Town Council was requested to close the streets for that parade on a motion by Todd Foreman, seconded by Vice Mayor Updike. There was some further discussion about waiving the fees. The town of Bedford does have a special events policy, which is geared toward the fact that, and not many people know this, while we're very happy to accommodate events that result in street closures, that also involves some extra activity from staff frequently. A lot of times that's overtime. And we do have a policy in which there's an application fee that has to be paid for council to consider these things. That kind of helps us cover some of the administrative costs of the meeting. But we also have an additional fee related to the town's cost. And basically, we tried to make people aware that, again, while we're happy to do these things, they're not free. They do require some effort, and particularly that presents itself in the form of overtime costs, frequently for the public works and police departments. We have a policy whereby we calculate those costs and communicate those to applicants, and we do request reimbursement of 20% of that. That was the particular fee that Vice Mayor Updike mentioned last night about waiving. Councilman Foreman, who made the motion to approve, accepted that amendment. So on a unanimous vote by all members of council, the street closure request was approved, as well as the request to waive the associated fees. Didn't mention this with the Christmas event sponsored by the Central Virginia Business Coalition, but related to our special events policy, there are a few things that the town recognizes as somewhat institutional events that we not only recognize but are directly involved with through sponsorship. The Christmas parade and the tree lighting activity is one of those, and Heather Alto was kind enough to explain that and remind council and the public that in addition to that event and Centerfest and also our 3rd of July fireworks events, the council does absorb all costs related to those events. The next item, we then moved into the new business portion of the meeting, was a joint proclamation between Bedford County and the town of Bedford, recognizing the 100th birthday and World War II service of Clarence E. Bill Wenzel. Mayor C.G. Stanley read a proclamation recognizing Mr. Wenzel's service in World War II. He volunteered to serve at the age of 17. After his naval service, he obtained a degree in physics and worked in the defense and space industry, working on a nuclear-powered aircraft, the lunar module, and crew systems for the Freedom Space Shuttle. Mr. Wenzel's 100th birthday is October 16th, 2025, and both the Bedford County Board of Supervisors and the Bedford Town Council expressed their appreciation for his outstanding contributions to the community in general and to the greater community abroad. CG read that proclamation last night. Again, always encourage people to go back and review our meetings if you weren't there physically, and you can witness that as part of that recording and broadcast. Next item of new business was the fiscal year 26 grant rollover and appropriations. Again, the town has received numerous federal and state funding opportunities that include eligible spending periods beyond our typical fiscal year basis. There are several grants that we have ongoing. The most significant that people might be aware of are the CDBG Hilltop Revitalization Grant, also the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant, where we are assisting the Bedford Memorial Hospital in building some redundancy in their electric system to make sure that power is reliable for them. There's also a grant related to the repair and replacement of the McGee Street Bridge, which connects McGee Street onto Orange Street in the eastern part of town. Councilman Stacey Haley made a motion to approve the grant rollover and appropriations. Councilman Vice Mayor Darrell Updike made that motion. It was seconded by Councilman Dave Foster. Got a little bit ahead of myself. Councilman Stacey Haley asked about the status of the McGee Street Bridge project in particular, and I noted that this is being funded by the Virginia Department of Transportation State of Good Repair program. The short of it is that is being completely handled and funded by VDOT. Unfortunately, whereas it doesn't cost the town any money out of our direct town funds, we don't have a lot of control over the schedule of that. And that bridge has been closed since 2019 at this point. And I reported last night that a lot of design work has been undertaken under the purview of VDOT. We're currently waiting on Norfolk Southern Railroad to offer their comments and hopefully approval of that to move it forward. On a unanimous vote by council, the grant rollover and appropriations were approved. Next item of new business was a budget amendment for general fund capital improvement items. This involved several ongoing activities of our town departments. The two biggest items are replacement of some apparatus for the fire department. That includes an engine replacement and a ladder truck replacement. This year's portion of the engine truck replacement is about $418,000. The ladder truck portion of that is $620,000. Councilman Todd Foreman made the motion to approve the budget amendment. That was seconded by Councilman Stacy Haley. Mr. Haley did inquire about the fire department elements in particular, and that gave us the opportunity to explain that the town is actually paying cash for these two major items of apparatus, but we're splitting up the cost of that over multiple years. And that also relates to the fact that it takes multiple years to actually fabricate and put these things together. So these vehicles have been ordered, and we've broken up that cost to reflect the time involved, and we hope to get those on the pavement and in service within the next year or year and a half. Council voted unanimously to approve all the budget amendments, and we then moved on to a budget amendment for additional state highway maintenance funding. The digest of that is the town receives a significant amount of money from the Virginia Department of Transportation for maintenance of public rights-of-way that includes streets, sidewalks, and some storm drainage facilities. Public Works Department has primary responsibility for undertaking that work, and we learned that we are actually going to receive about $73,000 of additional funding beyond what we had included in the current year budget. In order to do that, we had to vote to accept it. Councilman Dave Foster made the motion to do so. That was seconded by Vice Mayor Darrell Updike. There were also some questions about the projects themselves and how those are determined. Largely in terms of paving roads, we do have a system in place where we try to maintain all of our streets on a reasonable basis within a reasonable time. But our Public Works Director, Tom Woodard, pays particular attention to roads that haven't been touched in a while and that may have some issues due to utility work within them, or maybe just wear and tear where they need attention on a more frequent basis than we could do by just simply scheduling things on a rotating basis. We also noted that we have a list of sidewalk projects that is included in the budget every year, and the additional $73,000 could include bumping up some of those from the list that were not funded in the current year. On a unanimous vote by council, that budget amendment was also approved. Next item of new business related to a donation received from the police department in the amount of $5,000 from Lyondale Bazell. The police department wishes to use this donation to add an air filtration system, to the evidence vault that they maintained. Town council, on a motion by Dave Evans, seconded by Todd Foreman, unanimously approved acceptance of that donation and dedicating it toward that purpose. Next item of new business was an ordinance amending Section 2-27 of the Town Code. That deals with the regular meetings of Town Council. At its regular meeting back on September 9th, members of council first engaged in a discussion about the possibility of changing the date and frequency of their regular meetings. No consensus emerged from that discussion. In order to resolve that issue, staff was directed to advertise a public hearing and draft a specific potential amendment for consideration. That specific amendment that was presented and advertised included, but it was not limited to, approving the specific change presented, which is to move to one meeting the third Tuesday of each month at 6 p.m., The other option was to do nothing and continue to meet on the same schedule as we currently do. And then the third option was to negotiate something else that would meet the objectives of a majority of council members. Stacey Haley immediately there was some discussion first. Typically, there is a motion made that is then discussed, but on a request from Councilman Stacey Haley, there was some discussion of the issue in general. Mr. Haley expressed his desire to basically put off a decision until the first of the year. The main reason for this discussion is the fact that the Bedford County Board of Supervisors recently took action to change their meeting date, and I'm guessing their process is similar to ours that required passage of an ordinance. Beginning, I think it was in September, it might have just been this month, both the County Board of Supervisors and the Town Council meet on the second and fourth Tuesdays at 7 p.m. So this discussion on Town Council's part was to try to respond to that in a way which would not limit town residents' ability to participate in meetings of all of their elected officials. With that as background, Councilman Haley noted that his view was the county change was made at the request of their current chairman, and the way the county leadership works on the Board of Supervisors, it's similar to the selection of the mayor in town, in which they are chosen from within the board membership. But whereas the town has a formal election process driven by our code, the procedure of the county seems to be that different supervisors kind of take turns serving as chairman, or at least that was what was presented by Mr. Haley last night. And he noted that that takes place on a calendar year basis, so he shared his view that perhaps the county might change their policy related to meeting dates at the first of the year. He also shared his view that the 6 o'clock starting time, which is proposed for consideration, might be difficult for a lot of people. Mayor Stanley shared his view that there's already a practice among town council in which typically in November and December, there is only one meeting per month due to conflicts with the holidays. In particular, I'll give everybody a heads up, at the next council meeting, we probably will be moving our November 11th meeting to November 18th, because November 11th is the Veterans Day holiday. And the second meeting that month will probably be canceled due to the fact that it falls on Thanksgiving week. So at least in the month of November, the regular meeting likely will take place on the third Tuesday, but it will be at 7 o'clock. Councilman Haley then made a motion to table the matter, which was seconded by Vice Mayor Updike. After discussion of that, things got a little bit complicated. The question then became whether or not tabling meant it would simply be suspended indefinitely, or the question was whether council wanted to give themselves a deadline to think about it further, but actually take it up later. Councilman David Foster made a motion to amend the motion to table to make that tabling effective until October 28th, which would mean at the next council meeting, council would take it back up again and discuss it. Councilman Dwight Evans seconded that motion. There then began a discussion on the motion to amend the original motion. And I'm sorry if this sounds complicated, but it is. And thankfully, Town Attorney Jeremy Carroll was there to guide us. After robust discussion of that, the idea that there seemed to be a consensus to table the matter, but to give council a firm deadline to resolve the matter. On a vote of 5 members for and 2 members against, the amendment to the motion passed, which meant that the motion to table was then amended to say motion to table until October 28th. That aspect of it, the vote for that was as follows. Voting for that change in specifics were Councilman Evans, Councilman Foreman, Councilman Foster, Mayor Stanley, and Vice Mayor Updike. Then the original motion to table was acted upon. That motion also carried by a vote of 5-2. And again, voting for the measure were Councilman Evans, Councilman Foreman, Councilman Foster, Vice Mayor Stanley and Vice Mayor Updike, with Councilman Haley and Councilman Ippolito voting against. The next item of new business was a consent to assignment of a performance agreement. This relates to the development of a Hampton Inn hotel on Burks Hill Road, and it's a rather complex and frankly internal matter that was brought to us by the town attorney, and it relates to the financing relationship between the developer of that project and their lender. Basically, the town attorney had to draft a collateral assignment of agreement. As part of this development, the Town Economic Development Authority and the town entered into an agreement with the developer related to the development of the hotel. At this point, I've got to interject a personal point and candidly acknowledge that the site of this development is on Burks Hill Road, adjacent to the D-Day Memorial. Since my wife is employed by the National D-Day Memorial Foundation, I had a potential conflict of interest and therefore had to recuse myself personally from all the discussions. So it's a little difficult for me to comment on the specifics of the performance agreement because I was not personally involved. That said, getting back to the action last night, this matter was required, and basically there were questions about whether it involved any further burden on the town as far as previous agreements or funding. Jeremy Carroll, who was there on behalf of the town attorney staff, indicated that it would not. Essentially, the builder in their relationship, the developer with their lender, is noting that the financial contributions of the EDA could be used as collateral, but the developer had to get the town's permission to do that. On a motion made by Councilman Dave Foster, seconded by Dwight Evans, all members of council unanimously approved assignments of the performance agreement as collateral for the loan in accordance with the agreement. And I hope I explained that appropriately, given my rather unusual status related to the particular item. Next item was the discussion of our downtown strategy plan and follow-up. Mary Zirkle presented an updated list of actions that are proposed to be taken in conjunction with our ongoing downtown strategic planning process. One of those involved creation of 4 action teams related to policy administration, design, tourism and promotion, and economic vitality, and to provide each with a project mapping workbook. Each team is expected to complete the workbook to assist with implementing at least one strategy from the plan each year, beginning with one team at a time. Again, this whole project is driven by a grant from the federal government, specifically the Department of Agriculture. And the consultants have been engaged. It's a group from Oklahoma, and they met the requirements of the federal grant for that purpose. The next action item was establishment of clear minimum maintenance standards, specifically for downtown properties that address both interior and exterior conditions. Moving on, the next item to be implemented immediately is to partner with the Bauer Center for the Arts to establish an Art in Public Places task force to lead a public art initiative specifically focused on activating vacant and underutilized storefront display windows. The next recommended item of immediate action is to install custom streetlight banners throughout the downtown district. The next recommended item for immediate implementation is to consider organizing existing events into seasonal calendars by clustering events into spring, summer, fall, and winter categories. Also, as a pilot, downtown merchants should coordinate with the Bauer Center's Mistletoe Makers Market to host a Christmas open house event. There is also a recommendation to add vinyl stickers to the new Bedford logo for existing signs. And there are several other recommendations that are longer in term and have greater costs, including the possibility of engaging at least a part-time employee to coordinate downtown activities. This was all presented last night. We will do our best to get this posted to our website so everybody can have access to it as well. A lot of good discussion about the downtown plan and downtown concerns in general, particularly the maintenance of public areas and also the railroad right of way. Council expressed some concern about the condition of that, and staff will work appropriately with the railroad to try to get that cleaned up. Having no further business last night, the meeting was adjourned until 9 o'clock a.m. on October 25th for a strategic planning retreat, which will take place at the Bedford Public Library. Again, if you stayed with me this long listening, I appreciate your attention and your indulgence, and also your interest. There are a lot of challenges ongoing in our community, but we feel like those are no match for the talents and abilities of our citizens and businesses, and we appreciate the fact that we have so many folks who truly do care about the community and are willing to step up and serve and provide commentary, and that's not something we take for granted. As for my part, I, again, am very grateful to be able to serve the community and live here as a citizen. And again, in this day and age when we have a choice to live anywhere we want, it's gratifying to see more and more people choosing to move into Bedford and be part of our community, and to have the opportunity to get fresh ideas to go along with the great traditions and history that we already have here. So until next time, I hope to join you, God willing, on October 29th, the day after the next council meeting, which will be October 28th. And I hope everyone is enjoying the change in the seasons, and that you will be willing to join us again later and listen to the Best Little Town podcast. Till then, I wish you good health and good fortune.